Julie Gunlock is still, actually she's sitting, but you're still standing. You have not let your late winter cold
It's terrible.
bring you down. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's brought me down.
It has.
I'm so upset.
Oh, well, I'm
I
glad
hate
that you're here
colds.
anyway.
Well, thanks.
I do too. So don't breathe on me too
won't.
close, because
Staying
I've
away.
been, knock on whatever this is made of, I've been so far able to avoid SHOT Show crud, Great American Outdoor Show crud. The CPAC crud might
You know
get
what
me.
it was for me? We had a Boy Scout meeting at our house a couple
that'll
days
do
ago.
it.
So it was 20 dirty little boys. So I hope no one from that troop is listening. But so I blame the Boy Scouts.
20 of these filthy little children who apparently are never bathed by their parents. Well, I do hope that you're feeling better. And you are going to be missing CPAC. Right?
Sadly, I am going to be missing.
You're going to go far away. You're like all the way across the country.
Yeah, I'm going to be in California. So hopefully that nice weather will, do away with this cold. So yes, I'm not going to be there this year, which is sad. I usually go every year, do Radio Row, go on your show, see a lot of friends. Some of the guests that are on this show from across the country.
Right.
Sad I'm not going to see some of your other guests. So yeah, a little bummed.
I'm kind of sad too. But we're gonna have we're gonna put together some sort of Cam and Company meet and greet for all of the guests and the family and the listeners at some point.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. So you've got a couple of pieces to talk about. This is interesting. An actual case of bipartisanship in Congress, first of all, right? And it's not like bipartisan. We're going to team up on the left and the right to take away your rights. It's actually this is good news.
Yeah, there's a bill that passed the House last week. Republican, Democrat came together to ease up some of the restrictions on restaurants that was included in the ACA, or otherwise known as Obamacare. And this was menu labeling. So when you go to a restaurant, you sit down and it tells you how many calories are in your food. Now, some people really like this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm very I watch what I eat and I like to know the calories. But what offends me is that it's mandated by the government. Plenty of restaurants are doing this voluntarily. And as a consumer, I can choose to go to places that have these labels or not go to places that don't include them. But it is a real burden. And when you mandate that, when the government mandates this stuff, it really does become a burden on restaurants, particularly ones that really, they like to have seasonal, or they like to change things up, or they like to hire chefs that look at what's available in the marketplace and maybe change menus and specials. And so this really was a problem for restaurants. And frankly, I think it was a recipe for making restaurants, stick with what's on their menu and never changing it, because if they did change it, they put something new on the menu, they'd have to send it out for analysis for the calories. I know I'm going on here, but it also leaves, I think, restaurants really open to lawsuits. What if you go in and you have a certain thing on the menu and then you think it has more calories? I mean, I feel like people could, sue a restaurant if it's not exactly what is on the menu. So,
well, I have to tell you what I thought was the most interesting part of your story is the fact that Congress passed a law, whether you like it or not. Congress passed a law, and in this law, as you write, the original menu labeling mandate was narrowly written, right? So the law actually said that calories are to be listed, quote, on menus and menu boards in chain restaurants, similar retail food establishments, and vending machines with 20 or more locations. So that's the law that Congress wrote.
right.
But then the deep state, the bureaucracy, gets a hold of the law and says, oh, wait, we think this actually means something entirely different, right?
Yeah.
And so they expanded. They took what Congress had written and they scribbled all over it and said, nah, it's got to be something else entirely. It's got to be so much more than this.
It is astonishing what the FDA did. So the FDA, during the rulemaking process, the Congress passes a law, then it goes to the agency, and the agency looks at this, looks at the congressional intent, looks at the congressional language. They took what you just read off, that very narrow language, and expanded it to every possible business that even serves. I mean, you go to the bowling alley And they included concession stands. I mean, 7-Elevens. I mean, it's just astonishing to me. I sort of joked in the piece, the only thing they left out was the child's lemonade stand. But give them time, they'll probably get that the next time around. And so it included so many things. And this it's a real burden on those types of businesses as well. So yes, there's another point that I made in this piece that I think is really critical. They passed the ACA several years ago. And since that bill, that disaster of a bill, badly written piece of legislation has passed, Congress has spent nearly all of its time doing technical corrections to that bill because it was so badly written in the first place. Mm-hmm. And this is what you get when you have either agencies that go wild, ignore congressional intent and the original intent of the language, or you have a bill that's just so flatly bad. I suggest at the end of the piece, just repeal the whole ACA. Let's repeal the whole darn thing and start over.
That's crazy talk. I mean, but this is, and we see this, we saw this with the New York SAFE Act, actually, the Gun Control Act that was signed by Andrew Cuomo, right? And ever since they passed that in 2013, parts of it have been thrown out by the courts, parts of it haven't been implemented. Governor Cuomo tried to arbitrarily rewrite a portion of the law because it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to stand up to legal scrutiny. And so there is this mentality, I think, of, all right, we'll pass it and then we'll figure out all the details later. But there's also, again, that bureaucratic mentality of, well, we'll take what the law is and we'll make it read whatever we want it to read.
Yeah.
So that brings me to, I guess, my next concern is, so you now have this bill that's passed the House again, which clarifies, specifies what the requirements are. What's to stop the FDA from looking, if this bill gets to Congress or gets through Congress, signed by President Obama, what's to stop the head of the FDA from looking at this and saying, so it looks like they like what we're doing. All right, well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing.
There's nothing to keep them from doing that. There's absolutely nothing to keep them from doing that. And this should bother, both Republicans and Democrats. For years, we've watched the authority of Congress go down as we have a much more powerful presidency now. And so if we care about the rule of law in this country and we care about checks and balances, we have to be very concerned about agencies that have no problem overstepping their authority and completely ignoring congressional intent. I mean, this is a little in the weeds, but this really matters from a constitutional standpoint.
It's in the weeds, but to me, this is indicative of so much of what is going on. Where, as you say, Congress is supposed to be that body, that check and balance on the executive branch, but the bureaucracy has expanded to the point that it doesn't really have a check and balance. The Constitution doesn't talk about the bureaucracy. The Constitution doesn't talk about the permanent civil service and the power that they ultimately will wield, right? So it's not that we're talking about a co-equal branch of government. In many ways, we're talking about almost a parasitic form of government that latches on to both the executive branch, to the legislative branch, even to some extent the judicial branch, but it's not under the control of anybody. And it doesn't have that balance. So I think that's one of the struggles right now that Congress is trying to figure out. How do you rein in the state? Right. Again, the executive, I suppose if Barack Obama wanted to fire the head of the FDA for overstepping their boundaries when it comes to menu labeling, then that'd be the president's prerogative. But the president hasn't fired anybody, Julie, for anything. So I doubt that it's got to be over menu labeling.
He's not going to start there.
That's not the line in the sand.
No. And he's not going to mess with the ACA. I mean, this is his baby, his legacy. And so this is not the hill he is, going to die on. He's not going to care about this issue. So,
all right. So Julie has that piece that you can read at capx.co. Over at the Federalist, and we've almost running out of time here, but at the Federalist, you've got a piece. Don't listen to these so-called nutritionists who shame moms with fact-free advice, not fat-free, but with fact-free
there is a good
advice.
Title.
Is there how do we tell the nutritionists that we should listen to from the nutritionists that we don't listen to?
You just got to watch your sources. And this was a piece in the Washington Post. It looked like, everything. It had all the markers of a good nutrition story. She started out, saying, do kids really need to eat breakfast in the morning? I mean, this is sort of an obvious yes. She gets you going. And then it was full-blown alarmism. The entire piece was basically pushing moms to buy expensive organic food that you'd find at Whole Foods. And this is the thing that gets stuck in my craw. I get so annoyed with these rich women lecturing people in this country about the type of food they should eat when canned and frozen food is perfectly nutritious. It's a perfectly
if
good
your
option.
kids are not eating hand-cut, steel-rolled oats,
I know. Yes, yes.
You're a failure as a mom.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
let's just throw it out there. I'm not saying you're a failure, but
you
you're a
don't
failure.
love your kids. That's
not enough to feed them the very best, right?
That's right. I mean, you should sacrifice everything in your life to feed your children the best that Whole Foods has to offer. So I've just really had it with these shaming moms, and so I wrote this response in the Federalist. I hope this
Julie
this mom
wrote
reads
that
it.
response while at Chuck E. Cheese. Just eating.
While eating Doritos.
There you go. Julie, listen, I hope you feel better. Thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.